Yeah, cool.
Well, thank you everyone for coming along tonight and giving up your time to do some education online. Getting very close to being able to do these on court very soon. So fingers crossed this will be one of the few remaining online sessions we have to do, and then we can do them, like I said, on the court. We will be recording this session as well, so we'll be able to put this online or post it out as well. So what we're going to do, first of all, we've got Gerard Hillier, who's going to be presenting. Gerard's our Werribee Basketball, or Wyndham Basketball, I should say, new player and coach development manager. So we're very happy to have Gerard along for the ride. And tonight, I think we're going to go for about a 30-minute presentation, and then we're going to have time for some questions at the end. We asked everyone just stay on mute throughout the presentation. If you have any questions as we're going, I'll keep an eye on the chat function, and if there's sort of anything pressing, I might interrupt Gerard every now and then with a question or two as we go, or ideally if we can wait until the end, then we'll do them all. We'll do them all then. So I will now pass over the reins to Gerard Hillier.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks, coaches, for attending. I apologise we have to meet over Zoom. Like I said, in the last couple of meetings I've had, I was trying to make a point of not meeting people over Zoom. However, the hands are kind of being tied behind my back, and the stadiums are slowly starting to open up and people are returning to court. So I definitely wanted to touch base before we all hit the court. What I'll say before I forget is once we are all back on the court, I'll be making myself available for a couple of weeks, just hanging around the domestic training scenes. Obviously, I can only be at so many stadiums at once, so I'll pot around and try and get across to all the major sessions. So again, like that is just for coaches to put their hand up and grab me and ask any questions you've got, or also meet you guys as well, and see where everything's at. Tonight, look, what we're going to cover is our return to play. Some teams may have already been training outdoors. Some will be looking to train indoors very shortly if you haven't already. But what we want to cover is a safe return for our athletes. As you know, everyone's had, all the players have had, 6 months, if not more, off. So their body hasn't been moving the same way as what it was prior to the stand-down period. So, functional movement patterns, the twisting, the turning, the jumping and all that sort of stuff, it may have been happening to a lesser degree with trainings and that, like their online Zoom sessions, but to actually replicate that on court is really tough to do unless you're on court. The biggest part is now there's going to be variables. And a variable, the main one is the ball, and the second main one is their defender. So, a lot of their trainings have been 1-on-0, so it's been very prescribed, and they've had no variables in front of them. So again, certain muscle groups don't get worked out as much as others, all right, because they just don't have to. Their reaction times will have gone to sleep a little bit over the last 6 months, and now we're about to return to the court and everything's about to do a 180, and they're going to go full tilt. Couple that with summer sports will be raring to go as well. So summer sports are going to want their pound of flesh from the players. Basketball, we're going to want our pound of flesh. School's probably trying to get them outdoors and as active as possible. So we've gone from 0 to hero in a matter of a week or two. And for some players, that'll be pretty troublesome on their body. I think it's going to be a far greater challenge on the domestic scene to get a safe return for players than what it will be on a representative level. Given that, a lot of our domestic-based players play for friendship, play with their mates, how proactive they've been the last 6 months training on their own, probably not as much as the rep kids, and that's okay. That's fine. Like, we all play for different reasons, same as we all coach for different reasons. But I think our job's going to be greater on the domestic scene than any other level. The last thing we want is a young player that plays socially or just for a bit of fun to have 6 months off, then come back, do a serious injury, then be sidelined again. Because I'm sure we'll all agree it'd be pretty tough to get a kid back if that was to happen. So our job really is to have a bit of a plan in place to reintroduce them to training and to playing. I'm no different to any other coach where once I get my team back, we're going to want to go flat out straight away because it's exciting. We've been sitting home twiddling our thumbs, all these sorts of things. So now we're in a stadium and we've got our team. It's like, let's go. I think for us as coaches, we have to lead the way because we are the adults. And depending on what age group we coach, the under 10s, I think, and under 12s are going to be fine because they're little rubbery players and they'll be fine. But when you get to the 14s, 16s, 18s, and you see those big growth spurts, you got the lanky kids, or some kids are already fully grown by the time they're in 16s. Injuries seem to be more prevalent in those age groups, especially major injuries. So the older they get, the slightly tougher the job becomes. And look, there's another part of it. We as coaches might want to reach out to all our players because a lot's changed in the last 6 months for all of us. Are they going to come back? Is basketball still, on their radar? Would a phone call from the coach, lock them in to come back? I think, young athlete or young players, just a phone call from their coach can do wonders to get them back on the court to start with. And once they're there, then we can start building their bodies back up. But, I've got no idea. Even if you just have a look at the junior rep program, the 400 odd kids, trying to figure out what every single one of them has gone through the last 6 months is just guesswork. And then multiply that by God knows how many for the domestic program. It might pay just to touch base with our players and see if we can get them back in. So from a building up their body point of view, I'll go through, I've got a few little clips, a few little videos. We're recording this and sending it out so you don't have to draw it or film it. We're filming it for you. We'll shoot it out. There's a document at the end, a PDF. I'll shoot that through to Chris and he can pump that out to those that registered. Use as much of it as you want. There's 1 or 2 clips in there. See what your Spanish and Italian is like. You might be able to translate for us, but unfortunately my mates wouldn't do an English version for me. They just sent me what they had. But pretty much any time you hear them speaking, all they're saying is left or right. They're just telling the players to go left or right. So I'll just preempt the Italian and the Spanish with they're just telling them to go left or right. But look, strength and conditioning, okay, plyometric and proprioception work. I won't break it down too much, but really the jumping, changing direction, stopping and starting, and explosive movement, which basketball is full of, is something we want to probably focus on, depending on how long you train for. I would say as they're coming back, if we can incorporate some of it for about 25% of your training session at a domestic level, that'd be pretty handy. If everyone was doing that across all the sports they play, would be in a great position. But I think we've got to kind of assume that no one else is doing it with them. And if we plan for worst case, then, at least they're getting a quarter of their session, building their body back up. Some of the stuff we've been doing with the Wyndham rep kids, we started on Sunday, and any coach is welcome to come down and watch it. We're doing it on the outdoor netball court, so you can just come down and watch and see what we're putting them through. All of it is more than applicable to a domestic player. No difference. I mean, all those rep kids are domestic players anyway. So there's a flow on there. So if you want to come down and take some notes and get some ideas, because you might not be that confident with it, please come down, fill your boots, get as many ideas as you can and take it back. I will show you a few just to get the thought process going. And towards the end, we'll open up questions and we can nut things out and give you some more examples if I've got them. But these are more just little, I guess, teasers just to let you know where we're heading with things. Right, so I'll jump into last Sunday. Maybe. Alrighty, so I'll play this one through twice. So again, just some basic jumping back and forth, landing And on the coach's word, it's a sprint across and back. But again, nothing groundbreaking here. But with the jumping, we're going back and forth in this clip. You can be going side to side. You can be doing scissor steps. On your whistle, away you go. Whack a ball in their hands. That's probably the only thing I'm annoyed about watching this clip back again when we don't have a ball in their hands. Chuck a ball in their hands. They can be doing body wraps around their hips as they're jumping. And as soon as you yell at go or the whistle, away they go. Dribble the ball with them and go across the court. This one here, I'll just explain it before we play it. So got their 4 cones around them. You'll have cone, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but for example, this will be cone 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, she'll be pitter-pattering a lot on her feet. Her teammate will yell out a number. She's got to touch that cone, get back to the middle as quickly as possible. Go 3 or 4 goes, and then get her straight back into the middle. All right. With domestic, it might just be 2 or 3 goes. I'm not sure. If you've got older kids, you might go 4 or 5 goes, but it is pretty fatiguing. Yep, I got the numbers right. Again, this one here, it's just pretty basic. Just change the direction. All right, so she pitter-patter on her feet, change the direction, a bit of an explosive movement, but it's in a controlled environment. So there's no real variables here for her to think about or navigate. So it helps out a fair bit. Now, when we talk about prescribed movement, I'm sorry, I can't make this one go full screen. When we talk about prescribed movement, if we've got really young players, so we've got 10s, 12s or 14s, this sort of stuff's fantastic. All right, so one of my mates, I steal heaps of his stuff off his Twitter account. Again, don't worry about the language as such, you'll pick up on it, but this is prescribed movement. So there's no variables here. And again, it gets the players' movement patterns going again. You can move these hula hoops as close or as far back as you want. If you've got the older kids, when you see some of the ones later on in this clip, you can move them back to the 3-point line. If you've got really young ones, you can move it close to the basket. But this series here, we do variants of this with our senior, state and even national level players. So I'll let this one play through. And with all of these, you can use your imagination to change things up. And again, what they do at the start, you can have them doing crossovers or anything. Mix it up. This one's probably getting a little bit more advanced with the footwork. So this last one we just saw, where'd we go? There's a good one where a coach, we can stand out there, or the last kid that done a layup might stand on that red hula hoop or a cone. And as your player drives it and goes through the elbow, your player might stand on the blue. which forces them to the green, or they might stand on the green, which forces them to the blue. Again, we're starting to get a bit of decision making in there now without contact and going flat out. And the more confident they get with that stuff, you can then speed it up and encourage. If you're the coach, you can just move to one of those hula hoops later, so it's a harder decision for your player to make. But to start with, I would probably go with what we see here, just a coach giving a verbal cue early.
Ya, azul. Ya, verde. Ya, azul.
All right, so that's his little under eights group that he's got going. Not bad for little under eights. Like they're pretty decent with their footwork, and it's tough. But then again, we're talking about he's one of the world's best player development coaches. So put it down to where we're at. I mean, you may have kids that pick it up and be that good at it. I think the younger the players are, the easier it is to have success with that, because there's not as much prior learning that you've got to sort through or just ditch altogether. So again, like those little bits and pieces, you don't have to do the exact same ones, or you're more than welcome to. But it might just give you some ideas to throw. We call that prescribed footwork in there. Those coaches, when the coaches tell them left or right or inside hand or outside hand, you can just have the player behind them in line, yell out, or just tap their left or right, and they know they've got to finish. And you can have a group going on each side, so you get more kids through in a certain time. This next one we'll go through is starting to get a little bit funky with the shooting. Within this video is a lot of actual footwork, but the twisting of the body and the landing ready to shoot, this would be probably more applicable to your older age groups that can shoot comfortably from mid-range to the 3-point line. If you've got littlies, by all means, take them into the block or to the under 12 foul line and do the same thing. But I probably wouldn't do the last 2 or 3 examples here. Or you might want to, just to give yourself some entertainment at the end of training. But again, a lot of footwork in here and moving the body in different ways. I think this one I can go full screen. Yep. Again, so they start off pretty basic and they get to somewhat advanced. You can hear just adding a little body wrap in there. I'd say wrap the ball the opposite way that you twist, and that'll be enough to confuse most of the players. Oh, what did I get to? I think most of the younger players would be okay with this one. I think the next few where we start tossing the ball, not this next one, but when we start tossing the ball over our back and spinning might be a little bit too much for the 10s, 12s and 14s, but you can always give it a go. Again, these ones here, pretty simple movements, but again, start encouraging more distance from where you start to where you land. Puts a fair bit more strain on like groins, covering more ground. Yep. So these ones here, I'm not sure if we'd do these with the younger ones, but you never know unless you give it a go. And you could picture here, you could have some on the foul line and one group each side as well. So you could have 3 lines going at the same time with this sort of stuff. Now, I will, fair warning, your session won't look like that one to start with. He makes things look pretty easy, but he is in the Spanish under-19 team, so he's a reasonable caliber player. But the footwork side of things, all that stuff is functional footwork you see in a basketball game. Whether we teach it or not, you'll still see that type of footwork within a game. And I think with the younger age groups, it's hard to teach purely footwork without having a shot at the end. That's kind of why they brought that series or put that series together, was to add all the different sorts of footwork, but to put a shot at the end of it to, I guess, engage the younger players more. Where if you've got a professional senior player, they'll do just purely footwork for an hour and won't have a drama with it. With our domestic teams, I think we'll have a drama with just doing footwork for an hour. So that's the kind of stuff. I mean, all that stuff's on zero. And again, building the body up, you can play around with that stuff. I'm sure we've all got, a little bank of strength and conditioning things we can do. It doesn't have to be over the top, and it certainly doesn't have to be with weights or resistance bands. Just the athletes the players just use their body or body weight, and away they go. Once we've got a bit of an understanding of where athletes are at, and we're confident that their bodies are starting to build back up, that's when I'd start to go into advantage, disadvantage. I wouldn't go straight into 5-on-5 or 2-on-2. I would make it advantage, disadvantage. So we're starting to get their brains ticking over again and reading the game, but there's going to be a clear advantage. So it should be easy to score. And with it being easy to score, again, we just lower that risk of injury, because there should be a very obvious, you don't have to go banging bodies to try and get a layup, or you're not going to have all 10 kids following the ball around, bumping into each other, trying to get a shot off. So what I'll show you is I've got a few of these things on PDF. Again, I'll get these through to Chris and we'll email them out to everyone. But just some little ideas, again, just to get the brain ticking over and think of, you can make up your own. That's what I do with most of my stuff. I just make it up as I go. If it's good, I keep it. If it's no good, you just blame the players and do something else. Alrighty, so what we've got, so here's some pretty, when I say pretty basic, it's actually probably one of the areas I work on the most, regardless of level or age of player. Their decision making and being able to make a read. So most of this stuff is all based around increasing their reaction time. So with here, you can whack 2 cones out on the 3-point line, and you can have a set here on the wing, some up the top and some on the other wing. So you've got a few groups going. If you've got younger ones, you can move it closer if you want. If you've got older ones, you can start it, further back. You adjust it to your age group. But the pink X1 here, as soon as they turn to touch a cone, offense can take off. All right, so defense is at an automatic disadvantage. If they're doing this properly, best case scenario for a defender is they might get side by side with the offensive player. If they get in front, it's either the offensive player fell asleep or defense didn't actually turn and touch the cone. But it gives offense a really big advantage and will eliminate most of the contact. All right, so again, defense, we're encouraging them to turn and try and get back in front. But really, this is just to give offense an opportunity to make a read. Do I have to go left or right? You can make things harder if they go left and they don't dribble with their left. If they make it, you don't count the point, or you can put your own rules in place. But again, it's just some things to make things a little bit easier on offense to go and score and get their brain ticking over again. This is a similar drill, but now a coach will pass it. So you start the same, but you don't start the same. Offense starts on the block. As soon as offense goes to run out, defense, they will start the same. They've got to touch the edge of the keyway or the paint and then come out and play. Now, if you've got older kids that can catch and shoot that, if defense is slow, catch and shoot it. If you have younger ones that can't quite make that distance, you can either A, encourage them to drive it, or you can just move the drill in closer. But again, it's going to give offense a really big advantage, and it should be quite easy for them to score. Same deal as the first one. We're just moving it around to the top of the keyway. Now we start to get to 2-on-2. Right, so now we're starting to build this up. So this start is the exact same as the first one. All we've done now is added an extra defender and an extra offensive player. And again, if it's a big advantage and defender over here falls asleep, we're going to get a wide open layup. If the defender's overactive or they actually do their job really well and they jump in front, our teammate over here is going to have a wide open shot. So again, we're starting to scrimmage, but there probably won't be a lot of contact here because there's a really big, obvious advantage. And if it's not really big and obvious, great opportunity to start teaching your players as well. Now, what did you see? Now, I saw the ring. You go, okay, well, me as a coach, I saw 2 defenders. Can you pass it to your teammate? It might be a good opportunity to start helping them out with their decision making. One last one I'll show you, which I really like. I call this cat and mouse. So you can start this back at half court if you want. If you've got a full court, you can do it full court. The offensive player has all the power. They can go as fast as they want, then slow up and stop. They can go fast. So it's like a bit of cat and mouse, but defense has to stay side by side. As soon as they get inside the 3-point line, it's live one-on-one. Right, so they can't be, well, you can fake if you want, but defense is just going to jump in front of you. So the idea is for offense really to try and get a little bit of advantage back here outside the 3-point line and then blow by their player and get a layup. How they finish is up to them. They might have a pull up. You might have some older kids that they've got a really cool step back or something like that they want to put in there. That's fine as well. But that little bit of cat and mouse, that stop and start without contact, is fantastic for their strength and conditioning, getting their joints ready to go again and building them back up. So it's actually a really, really good drill. I do it with the seniors. We've done it all the way up to with national level players. And the older the players get, the more competitive they get with a game of cat and mouse. It's unbelievable how much they get into it. When I first started using this with Aussie Hoops, and a week later I tried it with our senior women, and the senior women were far more competitive and had far more fun with it than the little kids did. So I think you can use it at any age group really. And again, like with all of them, just add another defender, another player there. And as they get comfortable with that, you can add a third, a fourth, and you just keep building up until you get into 5-on-5. But again, they're just some of the basic little drills that we would use. And although they're basic, there's a huge amount of benefit in those drills, especially the decision making and the footwork stuff we were looking at before, and the hula hoops. Like, it looks, for me, like under 8s that I coach and the under 10s, we use a lot of things like hula hoops and color code things. We're just, red is always right foot, blue is their left, and green is a 2-foot jump stop. So we use a lot of colors for them. I know resources, some of us may have a lot, some of us don't have any. But again, using whatever props you've got to make things a little bit more interesting for our domestic players, I think, goes a really long way, not only for them having fun, but actually sticks long term, that they remember things. I'm sure we can remember some silly little rhyme from primary school that we learned just so we could, spell a word or something like that. There's always those little things that stick in your mind. I'm pretty big on that with teaching new things in basketball. So, but more with colours. I'm not very good with the rhymes. So using props to your advantage is a huge way to go about it. But really, just to cap it off, if you are getting back on court, I would even encourage people, if their first couple of sessions were to be outdoors, at the local footy club, going for a run, or if you've got a local park, going for a run, getting the team back together, and doing different bits and pieces. You don't necessarily have to be on a basketball court. But as they start to, you'll get a feel for it after a week or two of going for a run in the park. They've been moving again. Then we can jump on a court and start moving, changing directions. Because running on grass and concrete is completely different to then running on the hardwood. So their body will take time to adjust. But we can avoid injuries and put them in a safe, or get them on a safe path to come back and play. I mean, that'll be a massive job for each coach to get through that. Myself included. So where we're at right now is like the senior women's team. I haven't got them on court. I haven't tried to catch up with them and do outdoor court stuff. They're doing strength and conditioning stuff in the local park. They're meeting up on their own doing that. I'm probably going to let them do that for a month or two until their bodies are ready to go again. So as much as I would love to have them on court and training, I've got to restrain myself a little bit and give them a chance to get themselves ready to go. Look, resource-wise, we'll make sure we get, especially the PDF and those links out to all the coaches. But if you have anything in particular you want to raise, please shoot it through. I'm happy to stay in here for as long as it takes to give you whatever answer you need. So fire away with your questions if you've got any.
Hi, Gerard. It's Marvin here.
Hey, mate.
Hi. Firstly, good to see a few Heathdale Hornets, Guido, Brandon, Jason here. Now, in terms of us coming back, there's specific instructions from the government about non-contact as to what's the limit of non-contact. I mean, each person have to just use their own ball? There's no passing to each other, or just elaborate on that.
That's a really good one because it changes a fair bit. I would say when you turn around and have a look at things like contact, there's going to be incidental contact. I would say if we as coaches aren't planning for contact drills, or we're not planning for scrimmage for the first week or two back, and I'd be inclined to say, look, each kid have your own ball for the next couple of weeks. Just have your own ball. Don't share anything. Because then from the 23rd on, there'll be some more changes. So for the next couple of weeks, I think playing it safe and just having no contact and use your own equipment, I think that's the way I'd be going. And then wait for those next lot of announcements, which appear to free things up a fair bit for us.
Sounds good.
I'm trying to think, where is Heathdale actually located?
We're near the Werribee Pacific. There's a Heathdale Christian College school that we used to train in, but
we're everywhere.
You're everywhere.
Brandon's everywhere.
Taking over the world. One mind at a time.
From Point Cook to Manor Lakes to Wyndham.
Okay. I'm just trying to think of the school's name.
Heathdale Christian College.
Okay. I've got some driving to do to catch up on the new city that's been built out there since I last hung around there. So
when was that? 1999.
1999.
98, 2000.
Yeah. We used to ride dirt bikes in Tarneit. So Tarneit.
Yeah, I heard you mention that.
Yeah.
It's all estate now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's good. It's good to see more kids for us to get involved in basketball.
Yeah, we've got a big pool.
Right. All right, Chris, I'm good. Is you're good? Look, if coaches do have questions afterwards, by all means, email them through. I'm more than happy to jump onto emails and provide whatever resources we possibly can. When I say when the stadium's open back up, I know technically it's open, But when it opens back up and the masses can come in and you're starting to have your club training sessions, that's when I'll jump and get out and about and try and meet as many as I can. But if you do see me in the Stadiums, by all means, just wave me over if you've got any questions or if you haven't met me yet, because I'm more than happy to help out where I can. And yeah, probably until rep gets going, I'm going to have a fair bit of time going from court to court. So use me up while you can if you want to.
All right, guys. Well, if we've got no more questions for Gerard, we might wrap it up there. So thanks for coming along.